This is a book that's trying to shed light on a period of history that has been overlooked. Clementine Churchill is a woman we all owe a great deal of gratitude to, and we should thank her hugely. She was the one who made Churchill into the great man that he was. There is no doubt about that. But you know what? You can look at a lot of biographies of Churchill, 700 pages, claiming to tell us everything we need to know about Churchill, and she's barely mentioned. And yet he himself said he could have done nothing in his life without her. So I'm trying to sort of redress that gap. It seems incredible that we don't know about her. Her story was astonishing, and it's about time that people knew about it, and that's what the book's trying to do. Well, for me, I spent a long time in the research, and it's a great sort of detective work, if you like. I did some in the UK, some over in the States. This was quite a long time that I put into it. I really wanted to get this right, partly because no one had really done a fully rounded biography of her before. So the research stage was long. And then, once I had the research, there obviously questions come up as you're writing. You think, oh, I need some more on this, or I need to look at this in a different way. But I think research is so important with the biography. Afterwards, it's a story. And in a way, it's a story like a novel, except it's true. So you should let it unfold in the way that a novel would tell a story. And that's quite a difficult process, because of course all the time you know what's happened. You have to try not to tell your reader that you know what happened next, and keep it in that sort of stage-by-stage story, as if no one knew anything about her or what happened to her before. Well, it's about 3 years, I suppose, from start to finish, but I have to say that the last 2 years were extraordinarily hard work. I did lots of 100-hour weeks and had very few days off. Once you get going, it's quite difficult to stop, and because I realised I was unearthing so much that was new, it was quite addictive. It certainly made me want to jump out of bed in the morning, but I just don't want to sort of underplay the amount of research that you have to do in this, and it's also a little bit like method acting. I always think that you need to go to a lot of places that she went. You need to see the view from the windows where she sat. You need to see where she went on holiday as much as you can. You need to see where she travelled in America. I do think you need to try and put yourself into her shoes. So it is quite a long process, and by the end of it you feel like you know them really well, almost as if they were a friend. And it's interesting actually, a lot of people read the book say, I feel like she's my friend now. When I've got to the end of the book, I started really missing her, and in a way, once I stopped writing about her, I started to miss her too. I mean, I think it's a little bit of both. Obviously there is a great deal about him, very little about her, but because we know a lot about him and where he was and what he was doing, it gave me clues as to where she might be. Then I could start looking into documents in those places. On the other hand, as I say, there are all these books written about him that barely mention her, but that was the challenge in a way. I mean, it was interesting, the American ambassador in the war, Gil Wynant, wrote a book in 1947, and he said in this book, and it's a bit like a call to arms, one day someone will write a book that will give Clementine her due. And of course he knew how famous Churchill was going to be, and I think he also realised that she would retreat into obscurity, and that's where I tried to retrieve her from. I think you have to talk to as many people as possible who are still alive. I was very lucky to find 5 or 6 of her PAs who are still alive, who gave a very intimate, personal view of her. That was incredibly fortunate. I think you have to look at as many sources as you can, and again it's a bit detective work. I mean, just little details such as when Eleanor Roosevelt came over to stay with her. Some sources said that she arrived in the morning, some sources said that she arrived in the evening. Well, what was I going to say? And then I looked at her own diary, and though she doesn't specify, it says that as soon as I got there I couldn't find the light switch as it was so dark. So I knew it wasn't afternoon, I knew it was evening, and sometimes you have to find little sort of nuggets or clues and try and keep it as accurate as you can in that way. I think before going to see him, I think you just need to try and think of how they might have seen the story, or what was their vantage point, and ask questions that they feel that they can answer. I mean, obviously towards the end you can ask them to speculate, but I think most people are most comfortable if they're talking about what they know, and therefore they're most likely to be forthcoming. So I think it's sort of putting yourself in their shoes as much as you can, and spending as much time as you can with them. Again, people relax, the more time they spend with you, the more they trust you. And when you're talking about events a long time ago, as we are here, and some of these people aren't as young as they were, sometimes they just need time to think about it and reflect, and then suddenly things start coming back to them. So I think you have to be patient. Yes, although I kind of broke that rule in the sense that my first biography was contemporary and my second one was historical. So I know that normally you're supposed to make yourself the expert on X, but I haven't. The only thing that was in common between the two was that there was a story there to be told. And I was thoroughly interested in both people, because if you're going to live with them for 2 or 3 years, which is what you do, you have to be really fascinated by them. You cannot choose someone that's going to bore you. You really genuinely have to be, thrilled to find out some other aspect of their character or some other event in their life. It has to be thrilling to you. So I think that's the most important thing. Not that they're very, very similar people, but that they have stories to be told. I think that I think choosing the right person, actually. I think that's the most important, the most difficult. There's always a gamble. Who's to say that after 6 months you'll think, oh, I think I've mined this seam as long as it's going to go now. It is a gamble, but follow your hunch. And if this is someone who really, really is going to interest you, and is someone that you think that you can tell the world about, things that the world didn't know before, then just stick with it and throw everything you have at it, and research the context, research the people around, and never forget, it's not just the other famous people who are around that person, but the people who work for them. Some of the most interesting, revealing, illuminating information came from her PAs, some of whom had never been approached before, and it's always to remember those people who would have seen your subject perhaps relaxed, off guard, at those quiet moments, and they will tell you an awful lot. It's really important to remember them.